All right, welcome back to the channel. It's your boy Fanon, and in this video, we're going to talk about some very extreme statements out of Terence Crawford's camp about the Errol Spence Jr. fight and negotiations. Some really unbelievable stuff, man, and I'm telling you, just wow. Let's talk about that in this video. All right, welcome back to the channel. It's your boy Fanon, and in this video, we're going to be in the 147-pound division, talking about some statements that were made out of Terence Crawford's camp about Errol Spence Jr. and his advisor and manager, Al Haymon, as far as it relates to the contracts that are out there or the agreement that they are seeking to finalize for the fight between the two, the undisputed welterweight championship of the world. Before I get into that, though, let me welcome you back to the channel. If you're a longtime subscriber and supporter of the channel, thank you so much for your ongoing support. Make sure y'all hit that like button. If you're new to the channel, please accept my invitation to hit the subscribe button and the bell icon so you can be notified of when we release more videos. All right, man, so let's chop it up about this. Wow. Listen to a live stream that was done a few days ago on a channel that goes by the name of Bernie the Boxer. Now, if you're familiar with this channel and this conversations that's been going on for the last several years, you know that Bernie the Boxer is an assistant trainer that works in B&B Gym, and you see him in the ring with Terence Crawford from Omaha, Nebraska. Honestly, a very knowledgeable guy about the sport of boxing, somebody that is in Terence Crawford's inner circle. Now, in this interview, in this live stream, Bernie says that he's saying what Terence Crawford, he got off the phone with Terence Crawford. Well, actually said, I got off the phone with the guy. Doesn't actually say Terence Crawford's name, just says that he got off the phone with the guy, leaving it to your imagination to fill in the blank that it's Terence Crawford. And Terence Crawford, he asked Terence Crawford what he had the right to say and what not to say. And so he then proceeds to say that everything is true. Terence Crawford has signed his agreement, and he's agreed to everything that they've asked. Now the ball is in Errol Spence Jr.'s court. But in doing so, said some things that really, if you are a fair-minded individual, you might take exception to, which was pretty much saying that, not even pretty much, literally saying that Errol Spence Jr. and Al Haymon were slave masters, that they drove such a hard bargain for them, that Errol Spence Jr. gave up everything, that, took all of the advantage of the fights, compared the fight, the contract that they signed to contracts that fighters were taking in 1906, and really laying out that, that they feel like they were taken advantage of. But because they want this fight, they've agreed to everything, and now the ball is in Errol Spence Jr.'s court. Now, first things first, and I say this with anybody and everybody that talks about slave contracts. 1906, fighters were doing things like having to give up 80% of all of their future purses in order to get one fight. They were going to work for the fighter that they fought for the rest of their professional career, right? Giving up large amounts of money, not being able to get fights at all. So the idea that Al Haymon and Errol Spence Jr. are engaged in getting people to sign slave contracts, to me, is just like, I don't know how much of any of the things that you say I can take seriously. First and foremost, there's rumors out there that he was offered fights for no money down, zero guarantee, 35% on the front end, 35% for the first fight of the pay-per-view, 65-35 split for Errol in the pay-per-view, for the pay-per-views in the first fight. And then if Terence Crawford wins and Errol Spence Jr. exercises his rematch clause, Terence Crawford will also have to take 60-40 in Errol's split favor for the second fight. Okay, that does not jive with any reasonable thing that should be expected to have taken place. First of all, no money guarantee. Errol Spence Jr. fought Yordenis Ugas. And if my memory, if I recall correctly, Yordenis Ugas made $1 million guaranteed. Errol Spence Jr. got a $1.5 million guarantee. And then everything after that came, the revenue generated for the fighters came from the gates and it came from the pay-per-view. So, and I do believe that Yordenis Ugas got at least 35%. Some people said that he got 50-50. I don't believe that, right? I think that that's a rumor that's out there. And it's funny how these rumors always come out, always find a way to favor somebody that is negotiating against Errol Spence, right? Yordenis Ugas gave, when I first heard Yordenis Ugas had given Errol Spence Jr. had given Yordenis Ugas a 50-50 split. That was when people were saying, well, if you're going to give a 50-50 split to Yordenis Ugas, why wouldn't you give a 50-50 split for Terence Crawford? So the whole conversation around that split came from people saying that Terence Crawford deserved at least 50-50, right? But now it's at 35, even though Errol Spence Jr. himself in multiple interviews said that he would be willing to do 60-40. And on top of that, he would be willing to bend but not break. So I just wonder how in the world it got down to 35%. But regardless, that percentage is, if that is the case, hey, Errol Spence Jr. is the bigger pay-per-view star. He's the guy that sells the bigger gates, whatever. But the idea that Terence Crawford is going to be actually offered no money, no guarantee whatsoever is so far-fetched that I have to believe that it is just propaganda out there to make Errol Spence Jr. look bad if the fight doesn't go through. Because when people are talking about these things on YouTube or they're talking about them on Twitter, people, when they hear it, it sticks. And you will hear it over, you will hear the same misrepresentation of fact over and over and over again for years and years and years and years. And because there's never going to be an actual official statement made by Errol Spence Jr. after the fight is over, or Terence Crawford after the fight was over, as to what their actual splits were. That information is going to be confidential and in their contracts alone. The only real information that you're going to know for sure is what the gates were and what their guaranteed purses were. And you're going to be able to find that out from whatever commission in the state that the fight takes place on. They would release that number through either a Freedom of Information Act, or you're going to get it from a place, from some journalists that requested that information. That's how you will get what their purses are or what their gates are. Same organizations will release that, what their purses are ahead of time and what their gates were afterwards. Other than that, you don't know it. But it seems really strange to me that you're in a negotiation with someone and then you approve a message that the person that you are literally negotiating this fight with is a slave master that is taking advantage of you, that is making you fight with one arm behind your back, is going to make you have 3 weigh-ins in the same day, things that you just know, no way in the world these people are actually asking for, but a way to make it look as if Terence Crawford is the victim going into this negotiation. Now, shortly after that, and I've said this in other videos, Fight Hype came out and said, look, the fight is not done yet. So if the fight is not done yet, or is right, that means that these statements about all material facts being agreed to and all of this other stuff may be true, it may not be true, but it more than likely is coming from the perspective of one group of people that are trying to apply pressure in the final days of this negotiation. Now, if this fight turns around and is made, I wouldn't be surprised. If the fight turns around and is not made, I would not be surprised. However, the idea that Errol Spence Jr. and Terence Crawford are slave masters that are trying so hard to get out of the fight that they would offer the worst possible deal that anybody's heard of in recent memory. just to me seems like maybe you're laying it on a little bit too thick, but people are out there talking about it, so I'll give my response. Anyway, so that's what I think about it. You let me know what you think in the comment section. And with that, I'm out. Peace.